Tim going first, starts with a Jirachi, which means a Stellar Wish will be the way we kick things off here in game one.
Yeah, it looks like he did find a quick ball off of that. Of course, two evolution incense in his hand as well, but just going to wait on those. You need your basics before you get your evolutions.
Quick ball, discarding the Marnie. Marnie's just such a powerful supporter card. Surprising not to see it really do all that great at this tournament, but at the same time, I mean, we say it not do all that great, and it's still in the top 4.
Yeah, no, it's still a very impressive card. Just it just compounds on what Judge was able to do. It just does it a little bit better, and the strategy is very interesting also with being able to place the hand on the bottom of the deck.
There's our first Galarian Zigzagoon. The tantrum itself. And another quick ball actually is going to allow us to maybe find, well, it could have found another Zigzagoon, but instead it's finding this Mimikyu.
Yeah,
Mimikyu is just such a great Pokemon in this matchup.
Yeah, it's a pretty great way to shut down the Mewtwo. If you don't find Stealthy Hood, then that means that you're not going to have access to your ability, and your ability is pretty much the only way that you get things done as a Mewtwo player. I mean, that's the name of the deck, right? Perfection.
You're not wrong. Now, that is going to be the end of the turn here for Tim, so because he can't play any supporters, it's hard to really get an explosive start, especially when you're playing a deck like Galarian Zigzagoon or Galarian Obstagoon. But still, this is a great setup. He finds us for Zigzagoon, finds a Mimikyu, which is great in this matchup, and now it's on Nico to try to get some sort of an explosive start. Remember, Nico's got his back against the wall. He really needs to speed things up. He cannot let Tim start to get comfortable and set up multiple Obstagoons or anything remotely close to that. He's got to put a clock on Tim that Tim cannot allow. That's going to be the name of the game right now. Will Nico be able to rush down Tim before Tim can comfortably set up?
So from memory, this looks very similar to Torrid. It could be same 60. It does have that interesting Blacephalon in there that he could start to work with at any point. It's a great way to play some damage counters.
I actually believe it is the exact 60.
All right, well, that makes it a little easier for us then. We've seen a lot of Torrid, so we do know what Nico is working with.
Gotta love when teammates do well together.
Yep. We do know that this list then does play the 2 Stealthy Hood, so that's going to be very beneficial for Nico in order to work his way around that Zigzagoon plus Mimikyu combination. We see that Nico already has that on the Mewtwo, so well on his way to finding some relevant attacks, but potentially before we see a Galarian Obstagoon in the way.
Professor's research discarding the rest of Nico's hand to draw 7 new cards here. First thing I see is a Dedenne, so he could keep the draws going. Also has access to cards like Cherish Ball, which are just so great in a deck like Perfection. Can really find you basically any attack you'd want to have. Unfortunately for him, Solgaleo is prized. Not sure if he plays more than one. I don't believe he does, though.
Yeah, I believe that is the only one. We saw Tord also in a familiar spot like that as well, where he just prized the only one and really wanted it in the certain matchup, but don't know if it's going to be the main choice here. We do see that Nico did choose to go ahead and grab that Naganadel GX. It could be an interesting way to set himself up for victory. Also found the other Naganadel, so he'll have Stinger as a potential play. If he could work out a way to use Stinger in combination with Blacephalon, we could see an amount of him placing damage counters and just stealing a victory. So it'd be very cool to watch if Nico were able to set up that style of victory.
Which Pokemon are going to be important for Nico here in this particular spot early on in the game? Of course, it gets really wild towards the end, but how do you want to start setting up your attacks of your Nico?
I think he wants to place damage without taking knockouts if he is going to go for the Stinger into Blacephalon strategy. Because these knockouts aren't going to be too beneficial for him. And it looks like he is already trying to set that up. He's got the Blacephalon for himself, and he is going to use that Dedenne and push through, try to find some more options. Both Naganadel GX hitting the discard pile, so he is going to have those available to him by way of Perfection.
And of course, Charizard GX to boot there, as we do see still only one Fire Energy on that Mewtwo and Mew tag team. We've already seen him play a supporter card for the turn. Another quick ball.
Discarding Welder.
Yeah, that's an interesting discard if you're Tim. If you're Tim, you're wondering what kind of a hand can Nico have for him to discard a Welder so lightly. Is the Jirachi that important for him is what Tim may be wondering.
Yeah, it just might hint that this is going to be one of those slower games. Nico may want to give Tim a little bit of time in order to get into his aggressive strategy, or potentially he already has the one welder and he knows that this kind of setup only needs to have one welder hit on the Mewtwo and then some attachments to the Blacephalon, and he'll be in a great place.
Stealthy Hood is found here by the Stellar Wish. Stellar Wish able to look at the top 5 cards and find any trainer card. Of course, Stealthy Hood, a great card against Mimikyu, but when you already have one in play, you have to believe that Tim may have been Nico may have been looking for something perhaps a little bit more powerful for his next turn.
Yep, so we do see the Stealthy Hood going onto the Blacephalon as well. That should protect it from all these other abilities, some damage dropping effects.
Tim now starting his turn. The second turn of the game here for Tim begins with a Galarian Zigzagoon, followed by a Marnie.
Do you want to cut?
And both players will be shuffling their hands and putting them at the bottom of the deck in order to draw new hands. Because Tim played the Marnie, Tim is able to draw 5. Nico, on the other hand, only gets access to 4. That's kind of the upside to Marnie. The downside to Marnie is that you don't get to have a whole lot of cards in your hand. So Tim may be low on options. He's actually choosing to go with the Stellar Wish before playing a single card in his hand.
And he did not find anything worthwhile. I believe he sees a switch and a great catcher. And I think he was looking for a potential supporter for the following turn, maybe even that Evolution Incense to help him out and push his setup a little bit further than where it's at, because right now he's just sitting on a Zigzagoon party.
The problem with this Galarian Obstagoon deck, and I don't want to emphasize that it's much of a problem, but it is a bit of a problem, is that it is kind of reliant on things like Rare Candy when your opponent rushes you down. You don't have the time to evolve into Galarian Lanoon, and it makes the game, really feel uncomfortable for you if you're Tim. However, because Nico has not had, like, say, a very explosive welder start, he actually feels maybe perhaps a tiny bit more comfortable and able to just start to power up these Zigzagoons into Lanoons and play a slower paced game. This actually may benefit Tim quite a bit here, as that is the end of the turn here for Tim. That means both of these Jirachis are actually waking up before Nico's able to start his following turn.
All right, now looking over at Nico's side, he does have the welder in hand, but doesn't have access to Giant Hearth just yet. So maybe there's some thinning that he can do in the hand before he uses Jirachi, uses Stellar Wish, and tries to find that option.
Yeah, if you have access to something like Cherish Ball, you may be able to thin your deck by a card or so. There's the chance that he wants to go for it, but maybe he just feels comfortable enough that he doesn't feel like he relies on Giant Hearth. But he actually finds the Giant Hearth right there, and sure enough, grabs it right away. Yeah. So he will be able to use that Giant Hearth now, discarding a card from his hand, basically the least important card in his hand, in order to find himself 2 fires and get a really powerful welder off.
Yep, does not need that other Mewtwo. He has played both Stealthy Hood, so we're never going to see another Mewtwo likely coming into play to do anything relevant. He's got enough cards to use Stinger. So if he did want to go with that aggressive route, he could use Stinger and then follow that up with a reset stamp on the following turn. He does have that in hand. Just really depends on when he decides to pull the trigger for himself.
At this point, Nico is threatening to have a very powerful turn right now. Nico is really threatening to put a lot of pressure onto the Goon Squad.
The Goonies. Yep,
there's that welder. There's 2 fires onto that Mewtwo and Mew. 3 new cards added to Nico's hand. One of them's a Psychic Energy.
Looks like he found another reset stamp too, so could have back-to-back answers if Tim were to draw out of this. But I don't think we're there just yet. Looks like this might take one more turn or so, depending on how Nico wants to play this.
At a certain point, we're probably going to see the Galarian Obstagoon do Galarian Obstagoon things, right? And once we do, Nico's going to have a really rough time of it, right? I mean, what can Nico do once the Galarian Obstagoon begins to obstruct?
Yeah, I think he's going to just ignore it. He's going to use some like Stinger effect, try to get those prizes down, and then he's going to try to use Blacephalon and Naganadel as ways to snipe around this Galarian Obstagoon. Being that there are already 4 other Pokemon in play that potentially would not be that Galarian Obstagoon, he does have enough prizes laid out for himself to clean this game up.
Nico played a Dedenne change into a new hand. He has already played his energy for the turn onto the Blacephalon on the bench. But interestingly enough, he is not able to attack with the Blacephalon quite yet. So if he's going to be attacking, it's going to be with Mewtwo and Mew. Chooses not to, just passes his turn. And now Tim able to start setting up that Goon Squad one more time. There's 2 Zigzagoons and a Lanoon already in play to start this turn. That means we could see our first Obstagoon of the game and of the match.
Yeah, he needs to decide how slow this can go, because I believe he did find Professor Research, but he has 2 Switch in his hand. Not sure if he wants to go ahead and limit himself on that. He is holding Rosa, but I think he knows that his opponent is up to something fishy. Would not be taking those prizes outright by way of knockout, maybe just pushing around with a stinger. So instead, Tim is going to go ahead and start to get a little bit aggressive here, which I think he needs to. I think he needs to find those glaring Obstagoons and really start pushing.
And what is the importance of Switch here? Why would you want to hold on to these Switches and potentially not play something like the Research?
So I think he wants to have access to those Switches if the stinger were to happen and he gets reset stamped later on. The Jirachi along with a Switch means that he could probably continue to search for some more cards that would get his hand out of that awkward 3-card spot.
Tim does play that Research. Believes that he's got to go a little bit aggressive here. He's seeing Nico's plan start to really take shape. Wants to stop Nico from being able to really spread too much damage onto Tim's field. But then again, maybe not.
Yeah, that's Lanoon attacking. That's pretty interesting. I really haven't seen that all too often. It's pretty cool to watch that.
Well, that was not the expected turn for Tim. I'm sure that he expected to get quite a bit more help off of that Professor's Research there. But instead, we're left with just a Zigzagoon as the active Pokemon here after Lanoon dealt its damage and ran. Now Nico perhaps has a bit of a reprieve here. Has 3 fires on Mewtwo and Mew and a Psychic on that Blacephalon. Will the Blacephalon start to spread damage, or will Mewtwo and Mew perhaps Stinger GX at this point? 2 fires found by the Giant Hearth, thinning the deck and adding very crucial energies to the hand for Nico. Now, Stellar Wish could find something like a Welder here. There is a Welder.
Yep. More importantly,
instead finds the escape word.
Yeah, gets that escape word. He's been stuck in the active spot for almost 3 turns now, it looked like. So if he did want to get anything going, he was going to have to find a way out of that active spot. Also, he does have every energy that he needs to complete his combo at this point. If he does want to start using his Blacephalon, he's going to be able to do so. Did also find that weakness guard energy, which is pretty beneficial. Going to give himself an extra turn on the board. And we are going to see that Stinger.
Stinger GX, the attack of choice, the GX attack of choice. Both players going to be shuffling their prizes right back into their decks. And only 3 prize cards will remain for both players. Feels a little bit awkward if you're a casual viewer, seeing Nico use his GX attack to progress his opponent's damage.
So let's map it out. Does Tim realistically have a way to take a prize card?
Well, let's find out. There's very little aggression really coming out of Tim. He may be able to get an obstruct off, but I mean,
because that is the most important piece. If he can take a prize, maybe he can make this a little more awkward. He could potentially use Rare Candy Obstagoon or maybe another Obstagoon to follow and remove that Jirachi from play.
Galarian Zigzagoon hidden the deck. Or I'm sorry, hidden the discard pile. As Quick Ball is able to find that Virizion GX. Do we have a prize that we can take if we're Tim? Can we avoid the Blacephalon?
Yeah,
Was Nico too fast? There is that Virizion GX. There is an energy attached onto this Virizion GX.
Do you see Rare Candy and an Evolution Incense as well?
Breeze away GX may be the way out of this. maybe you just don't leave your opponent with easy options, but that doesn't seem like a winning strategy.
Does have 170 hit points as well, so it's in range of being targeted down by Naganadel in a Venom shot.
Evolution Incense. Finding the Obastagoon. A great deck here, a great deck choice by Tim, but it seems like Nico may have found an answer.
Yeah, incredibly tough here.
Retreats the Zigzagoon, promotes the Virizion GX. Will we be seeing a Breeze Away GX? And if so, what's going to get breezed away? Everything's vulnerable.
It's tough to see where Tim's really going with this.
You just leave yourself with a single Obastagoon.
So that is
has to play over a Candy Burst, right?
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
that is a Zigzagoon. Okay, so he is going to place that damage onto the Jirachi.
So close. If he had another Obastagoon, maybe. Instead, forced to breeze away basically everything except for the Obastagoon and a Lanoon.
Yeah, so he's going to try to limit his board to only Galarian Obastagoon. Considering even bringing up this Galarian Lanoon as well, I don't know if...
Obastagoon has no energy on it, though.
Yeah, and this does play really harshly into a reset stamp.
And that is the GX attack, so it is completed. Tim Bartels chooses to go with Breeze Away GX as his GX attack of choice. He believes that's the answer to Nico's Stinger GX play. Is it, though? This feels so uncomfortable for Tim.
Yeah, what if Nico just uses reset stamp and brings up his Blacephalon and spreads 12, and feels really good about himself?
I mean, that's the play. That's kind of what Nico's been trying to set up, and Tim kind of said, okay, I'll play into it. Let's hope that I draw well. I'm not exactly sure. Honestly, this is just such a complicated and unique situation.
Yeah, we can definitely see where Tim was going with the strategy. It makes a lot of sense. It's just, I don't know if this is the board setup for the play.
I mean, you have to believe that he expected that he may run into a reset stamp. Of course, you can hope that you don't, but that you don't run into it. But you have to believe that that's part of Nico's game plan. If he's going to be using Stinger GX, he wants to combo it with something. He wants to disrupt you. Fire Energy attached onto the Mewtwo and Mew tag team.
Well, he looks like he is eyeing up potentially one of his attacks that Charizard GX does 140 damage.
I believe he's looking through his deck right now.
It's his discard.
Discard pile. So there's one reset stamp in the discard pile. One in hand, I believe.
He's just going to go ahead and take that knockout.
Looks like there wasn't a reset stamp in hand.
Okay. So maybe there was a Marnie before all that, and those just got pushed away. So didn't have the answer built in just yet.
So Nico not able to really reset his opponent down, and now Tim takes down that Jirachi with that Galarian Zigzagoon, so he's out of that 3 prize range. Now he just doesn't have any energies on the Galarian Obastagoon. He can't really obstruct here.
Yeah.
Energy.
Doesn't have access to cards like his counter gain.
Skateboard onto the Obastagoon and now retreats for Jirachi. Jirachi Stellar Wishes finds maybe a Marnie.
Yeah.
Does have a great catcher in hand.
Oh, this is so tough. Yeah, he's just trying to put the pieces together.
Just wants to slow Nico down.
The strategy of just leaving the Obastagoon available
does find the Marnie.
Would have been so close if maybe he had the energy to go along with it. Instead has to now bench these Pokemon. Nico can see a route to victory in line.
Not sure if there was a play he could have made that didn't involve Hurricane, the Obastagoon, and perhaps just evolving the Linoon with that had the energy on it into the Obastagoon. Not exactly sure, but either way, Tim is in this position where, honestly, he has no energy in play at all yet.
Yeah,
He's hoping that he can disrupt Nico and attach for the turn. Doesn't have an energy in hand. Won't have an energy in hand.
Does find himself a Rosa, but I think he's going to need a bead to get out of this kind of situation. He's just going to need to find that acceleration.
Passes the turn. Nico and Tim both at 2 prizes apiece. Unfortunately for Tim, Nico has the energy in play while he does not. Giant Heart discarding the Solgaleo that was in the prizes for Nico originally. Finding 2 more fire energies. Marnie's good, but Giant Hearth may be better. Another fire. That's a 5th fire energy attached onto Mewtwo and Mew. What attack do you go for here if you're Nico? Do you just want to put your opponent on the fastest clock possible? You know that he does not have any energy in hand. That's for sure. So even if he has access to a bead, he won't have the 2 energy. And even if he has access to a Rosa, he won't have the bead.
Right. Does have that escape board, so if there was a knockout to occur, there's no room for that counter gain now. It would have to be a Rare Candy Galarian Obastagoon. Brand new Pokemon. And it looks like instead we will see that Blacephalon targeting down that Mew. If that Blacephalon is able to take 1 more attack into that Mew, it sets up for a perfect Naganadel Venom shot onto one of these other Pokemon. I think Tim's starting to see what's going on here.
Looks like maybe a research discarding the entire hand. Nope.
Nope, he knows.
Actually, what it looks like is just a concession as Tim Bartels scoops up the rest of his cards, says, all right, you got the first one, but you got to get 1 more.
Oh, the confidence of Nico to go ahead and show the strategy so early. And, of course, as soon as you see those pieces, you get excited and you want to play those all down. You want to make sure that you have it all lined up. But he very early broadcasted that this is going to be the strategy. Tim had a good 5-6 turns to come up with a plan, decided to go with this Virizion GX plan, and it was so close to coming out as successful. I think he honestly was just a few pieces off. If he was able to maybe find that Professor research into an extra energy card, maybe if he had an energy already attached to his Galarian Obastagoon, maybe bead into energy so that he could have got that obstruct that turn, we could have seen maybe a completely different game.
Do you feel like this game was showing of how the matchup is usually going to play out, or do you feel like maybe a lot of things went wrong for Tim and too many things went right for Nico?
I think that Nico built his deck to have an answer to this. I think the Stinger plus Blacephalon is a nod to the fact that Galarian Obastagoon and Chinchino Mill decks exist, so you can give yourself an opportunity to sneak away and get a win with this strategy. And it does seem to be something that he was expecting when he came into this matchup because he went so quickly into this strategy. So I believe that Nico is in a favorable spot just because he might have a little more experience on how to handle this. And Tim may not have seen a Mewtwo deck that has a strategy built in like this.
So the strategy is basically what we saw there, the Stinger GX and the Blacephalon with perhaps even a reset stamp to boot. It seems like it's a very powerful strategy, of course, like it worked, right? But at the same time, it feels a little bit fragile. It feels like if your opponent has enough energy in play or if you have enough damage on your field, then he'll be able to knock you out with just something like a Zigzagoon or of course, an Obastagoon.
Yeah, I think that the most crucial piece of this is the Jirachi. If Tim is able to land enough damage on the Jirachi without obviously knocking it out over on Nico's side,
right,
then he can make sure that he has that prize card available to him following Stinger.
Exactly.
And then he can just easily take that knockout. And if I think he takes that knockout and lands Obstruct on the same turn, he could end up just having a few extra turns over Nico to win the game.
Exactly. That's kind of what I'm hinting at. I don't believe that this is a foolproof plan. I feel like maybe Tim just did not have all the tools he needed in time. He only had, I believe, something like 1 damage on the Jirachi when this happened. He ended up having to play the Obastagoon after the Stinger GX, and that was not enough to knock it out. It left, actually, it had 3 damage on it because it left it at 6. If you have, say, access to a Zigzagoon and an Obastagoon in that spot, the game changes completely, and we may see Tim actually have the 1 by his name instead of Nico. Now Tim going first, plays a quick ball, finds the Zigzagoon. Zigzagoon, of course, placing a damage counter onto the Dedenne.
It's got that headbutt.
Now Nico able to start things off. Dedenne never the best starter there. And Giant Karth played immediately after a Jirachi.
Yeah, the rest of this hand, we do see Welder, but no Pokemon that he'd like to place this on. Should likely see the Giant Hearth to thin out 2 of these fire energies, possibly a retreat onto Jirachi, and then Jirachi trying to find either Quick or a Cherish Ball so that he could get a reliable target for this Welder.
GX Pokemon, in order to find 2 fires, does Nico have a Welder to go with it? And a Pokemon that he wants the Welder onto?
I think the answers to those are yes and no.
And how do you retreat the Dedenne? Do you just play a fire to retreat it? What's going to happen with Nico's hand here?
I think that it really doesn't matter how many energy Nico gets in play, because he only needs 5 to do what he wants to do. It's not a matchup where you need to get 9 energies and be ready to combat all these wild things. Honestly, attachment, 2 Welders, and attachment, he could have all the energies that he needs in 2 turns if he just lands them on the right targets.
Jirachi promoted after Dedenne retreats with the energy for the turn. Finding a switch.
It's not a Pokemon?
That is not a Pokemon, you're right. And it's not a way to find a Pokemon either. Unfortunately for Nico, he may not have access to a great start here, and that will allow Tim to start setting up these Pokemon. Remember, Tim would love to place a lot of damage counters on Jirachi, but never knock it out.
Well, the ideal target is found. It is Dedenne.
Now, is this going to be the end of the turn for Nico? Looks to be considering his options, weighing the options. Dedenne, the ideal target for a Welder, huh?
Did that just hit? that just clicked?
You just saw the wheel spinning. The mouse in my head's a little slow tonight. Mimikyu. Lanoon. Marnie.
Shuffle.
Draw.
5.
4.
Oh, man. Almost wishing he didn't play that Lanoon. Is missing the energy, but wow. Found everything else, but there's nothing to go with it. Not even a Jirachi. This hand's just stuck.
That's an Yveltal in his hand, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's the end of Tim's turn.
Yeah, with double Jirachi prize, it looks like it's just a little hard for Tim to find exactly what he needed there.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have 2 Jirachi's prize. It makes it hard to find them. And, of course, Jirachi would have been a great Pokemon to find in this spot, but without being able to find it, you would have at least appreciated something like, out answers, additional Zigzagoons, additional setup.
Honestly, just an energy at this point would be enough to really get him going. This might be the scariest turn that he has, but because Nico wasn't able to target a Mewtwo with these energies, there's no way that he gets a relevant attack off into this Lanoon here, so it shouldn't feel threatened.
Cherish Ball finding that, I believe, Mewtwo and Mew.
It's a Stinger Nagano.
The glare is harsh.
I know, man. These old eyes, they've seen a lot of things.
And Dedenne is going to be discarding the entire hand for Nico to draw a brand new hand of 6.
That's okay. Tim's young eyes are going to take a look at it too, so he'll help us out. Does find
Nico finding his Mewtwo and Mew now.
Does also find that Blacephalon and the weakness guard energy. So once again, everything's starting to come together over on Nico's side.
The Cargo GX discarded with a quick ball. Yeah, you're not wrong. This is going to be a big turn here for Nico, as it looked really uncomfortable for him as he ended his first turn, but Tim did not really take advantage, and now it's on Nico to really start to set up before Tim can start getting the Goon Squad ready. Remember that Jirachi is really what Tim wants to target down. He wants to put that Jirachi within KO range if Nico decides to go with that Stinger GX plan again. Two fires found with Giant Hearth one more time.
I'm just going to go into this Jirachi here. He's finding some fairly helpful cards that a skateboard could be beneficial to him later on down the road. Does have a second Jirachi as well if he did want to get a little spicy, but he is running out of bench space. It looks like he's going to have to dedicate those two other spots to the Mewtwo with Perfection and to the Blacephalon in his strategy.
That's the problem when you play that second Dedenne, you know? You're really going to limit your options. You're going to limit your mid-game there. And the skateboard is still going to be the card of choice here for Nico after that Stellar Wish. At this point, Nico wants to start powering up the correct Pokemon. As fun as Jirachi, or as fun as Dedenne is to power up, it is obviously not going to get you anywhere. And that is the end of the turn here for Jirachi and Nico. As Tim now starts his following turn, does Tim get the Obastagoon into play? And does Tim get additional Zigzagoons into play to go with it? Instead, he actually just passes the turn right away.
Yeah, Tim's wishing that he teched that fire energy, because he's stuck.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, of course.
You fool.
Why wouldn't he see this coming? I don't understand. Why wouldn't you want a fire energy that you could Giant Hearth into your hand? Come on, Tim.
Classic Tim. And this is just going to give Nico more time. No damage on that Jirachi. Can you continue to just pull fires from his deck? Slowly but surely get himself into that spot he wants to be. Doesn't have to worry about his opponent's hand because it's going nowhere.
What an awkward setup. Like, if you really look at it for both sides, like if you're if you just tune into this game right now and want to look at the board.
I can't tell you what Nico's playing right now by looking at his deck.
I couldn't tell you. Yeah,
you look over on the other side, and it looks like Tim's theme deck is starting to take off.
Now are we finally going to see the Mewtwo and Mew? Yes, we are. There's that Mewtwo and Mew finally.
All right,
now there's a welder.
I can tell you what Nico's deck is now. It's Mewtwo.
It's powerful is what it is. Mewtwo and Mew. Two fire energies on it immediately after it sees the field. Why not add a third? Are we going to see that Stinger GX right now? Or are we going to wait until we set up a Blacephalon? We know that Tim does not have any type of aggression going against Nico. We may already see the Stinger GX. Looks like we will. Jirachi says, all right, I've done my job. Take over from here, Mewtwo.
I'm going home. Yeah, this is an early Stinger. It's a little bit premature, but it seems completely fine because Tim hasn't been able to do anything. Generally, Nico wants to get in this position once he already has either the Psychic Energy or the Weakness Guard Energy on the Blacephalon already so that he can protect his Blacephalon when going in for the attacks and deal 12 and 12 to close out the game. But he doesn't have that luxury right now. He's going to have to do that in 2 turns' time. And potentially if Tim doesn't see anything good off of the top deck over the next 2 turns, we don't even have to worry about Obstruct. It can just be knockout into knockout, and Nico moves into the finals.
3 prizes. That's a Zigzagoon and a Research. The Research would be nice to
have.
Dark
Energy.
So only a Psychic Energy really feels relevant. There's that Obastagoon putting 3 counters onto the actual Mewtwo there.
Also,
there's no Stealthy Hood.
Yeah, this Mewtwo is out of attacks now.
But Nico can easily find a Stealthy Hood. Does Tim have anything else? Can he obstruct this turn?
He does have the energy in hand. Skateboard on his Mimikyu.
I mean, Tim doesn't really need much more of a setup, right? Like, he knows that he's not facing down a Blacephalon yet. If his opponent has Blacephalon, then oops. But this is not a spot where I feel like either player feels comfortable, Kyle.
Yeah, this is honestly pretty awkward for both players. Tim,
is he gonna yes, he is. He's gonna retreat.
Oh, looked like he was almost contemplating allowing the Mimikyu to be knocked out. he could potentially be worried about a Fione in combination with Naganadel's Venom Shot. But Nico does not play that card in his deck.
That's 120 damage onto the Mewtwo and Mew. Remember, he's shut off because of Mimikyu right now. There's a Cherish Ball to start Nico's turn.
So this is the one awkward piece about choosing to use the Stinger a bit early, is that you don't have Blacephalon prepared with Psychic and Weakness Guard.
Cherish Ball discarding finding the Solgaleo, and then Giant Hearth discarding it. This is the first obstruct of the match that we've actually seen.
It's a good one, too.
It couldn't have come in a timelier fashion. Second Cherish Ball now, finding another Mewtwo and Mew.
Also, I know it's hard to consider, but if that Mewtwo falls, that is the end of the game. Because Tim has found 3 prize cards by way of his opponent. Doesn't seem like he's done that much, but he is very close to closing out this game already.
This is uncomfortable for Nico. A switch, though, promotes the Jirachi. Jirachi may be able to Stellar Wish into something. There's that Stellar Wish. 5 cards deep. There's a Reset Stamp.
Yeah, Reset Stamp it looks like a good card, but honestly, I don't think it is. Because Nico is well aware that either that Obastagoon or that Energy was the card that was top decked.
Look at the top 5, though. Like, what other choice does he really have?
No, I mean it surely could be the correct choice. As if Tim ever does top deck a supporter or anything like that, you'd love to hold on to it. But I think that Nico should have a read right now that the rest of this hand isn't very strong, as Tim really was just passing over and over again until he found either that Dark Energy or the Obastagoon.
All right. There's the Blacephalon. There's the Weakness card.
Still no Psychic Energy. Going to go ahead and just leave this Latios in the active spot. Has that free retreat, so it can take one of these obstructs and then just run away. And yeah, good call on Nico not using that Reset Stamp. Wanted to hold on to it because he does have the strong read that his opponent's hand is going nowhere.
Yeah, you absolutely do not play the Reset Stamp when your opponent is literally just draw past. Now, it's not a draw pass, but it is a draw obstruct. 90 damage on the Latios. Does Nico have a Psychic Energy in hand?
Can I answer that?
Yes, you may.
No.
I know. Okay. Oh, boy. Retreats, promotes Jirachi.
Yep.
Stellar Wish.
Welder would be a pretty reasonable card here, along with Research. Those are both ways that he could start to get through his deck a little further. Research is the one that's a tad more awkward, as he would lose a lot of resources. But it is the most simple way to push through and find that Psychic Energy.
Let's take a look to see if there's a Psychic Energy in the discard pile. Remember, there is 1 prized, but none in the discard.
So if there was, then we probably could have seen Nico use the Stealthy Hood. I'm not sure if it was in his hand last turn. It's in his hand this turn.
Okay.
He would have used Turbo Strike, most likely then, to get that onto the Blacephalon.
There's a Stealthy Hood onto Blacephalon. Switch.
Yeah, this is going to go ahead and use that switch. I think this means that he is going to go all in right now, try to find that Psychic Energy. This would be huge right now if Nico were to find it.
There's only one in the deck, Kyle. There is only 1 Psychic Energy in the entire deck. The other one is prized.
Oh, he prized it off of the Stinger. Let's see if he finds it.
He missed it. He missed the Psychic Energy. He went all in and did not get there.
He retreated already, too.
There's no attack here for Nico. There's no switch in hand, I don't believe. There is no Psychic Energy in hand. We got a clear look at the hand.
He's going to go ahead and use that Giant Hearth, see if what was going on. He knows it's in his prize cards. He's going to scoop it up. We're having a game 3 here in the top 4 of our international event.
Okay, so was there a Psychic Energy in the discard pile then?
No.
Right, so there was only 1 in the entire deck somewhere, but he didn't find it.
Yes, there was 1 in the deck. It looked like he had a little less than 50-50 odds. Just after he looked with the Hearth, it looked like he grabbed like about 9 cards. So 7 cards out of that 9, and just wasn't able to find it for himself there. I don't know if he had the information that the one was in the prize cards, but he did. I believe he did have some deck searches during that time.
He found out when he used the Giant Hearth, obviously.
Sure.
But you know what's sick?
Tell me.
The very next card in his deck was the Psychic Energy.
That's disgusting.
That is, I mean, that makes your stomach really turn if you're Nico.
Unless you're a part of Goon Squad.
Well, if you're Nico, you're definitely
go.
not feeling great. If you're Tim, or if you're in the Goon Squad, you're doing your happy dance.
That's right. Yes, Goon Squad is going to live one more game potentially. We'll have to see if he can push through this, find the win against Nico Alabas, and move into the finals of the Oceania International Championships.
Tim Bartels, Nico Alabas, 1 game apiece, 1 game to decide who goes on to Championship Sunday and who finishes with a top 4 finish at Oceania's International Championships this year.
Well, we're going to have to keep an eye on Nico's prize cards.
You love the sportsmanship. You love the handshake. They both understand that there is a lot on the line this game. You've seen Nico's strategy work, and you've seen it fail.
Is that Blacephalon in the opener? He's got it in his opening hand.
You have great eyes.
Thanks.
You have great eyes, man.
They're nice and blue.
And there's some prizes here. There's a Naganadel, but the wrong one.
Yeah, nothing bad. Of course, Venom Shot is a potential great way to take some knockouts if Tim were to overbench in a Stinger situation. But other than that, I think this is completely fine. Also, Stinger's going to occur, so who cares about these prizes? He can just shuffle them into his deck, and we'll figure it out later.
Did Nico just pass?
What if I said yes?
Yeah, Nico went first for sure, and Nico just passed. So that's, I mean, of course you can't play supporter on your first turn of the game, on your first turn of your first, but there's a very real chance that Nico just has nothing.
Well, I don't want to say that because he could certainly have Blacephalon plus supporter. He actually does have that. He doesn't want to play Blacephalon because he doesn't want the Zigzagoon to get any extra damage on it. If he plays Blacephalon before the Stealthy Hood hits, and even 2 damage counters get onto that Pokemon, then his strategy of using Weakness Guard in tandem with the Psychic Energy to avoid 90 damage Obstruct is completely destroyed. So when he plays that card, he wants to know that there are no Zigzagoons coming to ruin his day.
Zigzagoon does come, though, and it only targets the Victini, as that's the only Pokemon in play. So if he does have a supporter in hand, Nico's all right, but man, he's got to have it.
I saw Fire and Welder. Big Blue misses nothing, except for when I miss it.
Professor's research, drawing 7 new cards. Now, if you're Tim, do you just hold on to your Zigzagoons?
Oh, no. That's a full whiff.
Oh, wow. I don't know if I've seen that this whole weekend.
I'm used to that when maybe like a Victini Prism Star shuffles 14 Fire Energies back in, but no, you don't just whiff on the opening turn. That's pretty disgusting.
Jirachi does wake up. It's upset at itself. Well, actually, maybe it didn't wake up. I thought he flipped heads, but maybe not. Oh, yeah, he did.
There's 2 4s on the board. Something happened.
It did indeed wake up. It was just feeling a little lazy. It hit the snooze button on the alarm clock. And
sounds like us this morning.
Yeah. Nico plays Mewtwo and Mew and a Welder onto the Mewtwo and Mew, so still gripping that Blacephalon there.
Yeah, honestly, I think that Nico could wait one more turn. Does have... Can't see just the tail end of that hand, but it looks like another Welder potentially. So he could use the Welder next turn, try to draw into the Stealthy Hood, and have that Stealthy Hood available for his Blacephalon. Maybe he just sees his opponent overbench Zigzagoons, and then he feels comfortable playing the Blacephalon, but it does get a little scary to just play it down now.
Yeah, especially when your opponent's only played 1 Zigzagoon. You feel like you're still going to be forced to grip it if you're Nico, but at the same time, how long can you really grip it for?
All right. And this all really depends on Tim's hand as well. If he has Rare Candy plus Galarian Obstagoon, that 3 damage would be enough to lock out the Mewtwo of doing any relevant attacks by way of Mimikyu, and it looks like he does have that.
There's the Obastagoon, 30 damage onto the Mewtwo and Mew.
Oh man, look at this start. He's
Another
pushing
research.
through.
7 cards. Nico felt a little comfortable. Well, definitely felt uncomfortable, but felt comfortable enough to hold on to that Blacephalon. Felt like he had a little bit more time, but Tim saying, I can't give you time. I need to actually start putting the pressure on you now. If I can get an obstruct right now, that'll be huge, but he seems to have missed. I don't know if he's got a switch available to him.
Yep, did not see one in hand. Does have multiple Pokemon communication, so could start to set up a pretty nasty board for himself if he wanted to. But this, once again, gets to that point of does he end up incidentally overbenching, and then he would have to have Rare Candy Obstagoon in order to place the relevant damage necessary for the Blacephalon.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of holding on to the Zigzagoons and making sure that you can apply 20 damage onto the Blacephalon as soon as possible. If you can do that, then you're feeling more comfortable if you're Tim. If you can't do that, though, then Nico does have a big window available to him to actually seal this game. Nico may have built the deck with Tim's Obstagoons in mind, but the Goon Squad says it's going to be tough for you to beat me. It's going to be tough for you to actually be able to pull off this strategy. We're too strong when we're together.
It's a beautiful song, man. Well,
I didn't come up with it. The Goon Squad did.
There's one really great answer to what is going on right now, and that is to have Venom Shot. And that doesn't exist right now because it's in the prize cards.
It's prized, exactly. There's 2 fires attached onto the Mewtwo and Mew through the welder.
Well, this huge hand.
That's the first card to hit the discard pile for Nico.
Start getting some play. We do see there are multiple Dedenne in hand. Don't know if Nico thinks that this is the turn to push. Don't even know if he has that option, honestly.
Look at those red Pokeballs next to Nico's name.
Yep,
this is actually happening because Tim got penalized for having insufficient randomization. So Nico only needs 4 prizes. Does that change Nico's game plan at all?
He needs
Stinger.
He needs 2 less prizes. Right?
Yes.
So, well, it doesn't mean he needs 4 prizes, right?
Well, right. I guess, yes, you're right.
He could just, it's Stinger plus a prize.
Stinger plus 1 prize, correct.
Yep.
So that makes it a little bit easier for Nico.
That makes it very easy for Nico. This could completely change Nico's style of play now. So if he does choose to go all in here with his Dedenne, he could, of course, play down some of these Pokemon now. Doesn't have to worry. Can use that escape board along with Dedenne. Really start to push through.
A skateboard onto the Victini.
Thinking of the attachment, going to go ahead and do it. Seems like a fairly safe play for him now. Going to use that Dedenne, and he's going to push.
Dead 8 change, draw 6 new ones. Still no Naganadel in hand. But did he draw it?
Oh, he found the hood.
The hood will be nice. Jirachi also nice, able to Stellar Wish.
Yeah, that was a huge draw for him. Only had 2 in the deck. Off of the top 6, was able to find that. Going to go ahead and use Stinger now. Can put himself in a great spot where he only needs 1 more prize card to lock this game out.
So he does actually have the Naganadel already in the discard pile, of course. There it is, Stinger GX. Oh, no.
Well, this also means that the other Naganadel is being shuffled back into the deck. That means eventually if Nico were able to find that along with a Psychic Energy, he could have a perfect snipe on one of these other Pokemon after Obstruct, which could close out this game now due to that insufficient shuffle that Tim had earlier on.
The squad is thinking not like this, not like this. But unfortunately for Tim, it's looking really hard for him to come back here. Nico only needing 1 prize.
We'll look at the prizes, right,
Yeah.
Andy? Obstagoon. Not too bad. Okay, so the Dedenne is a little unfortunate, but the rest of it is not Venom Shot, so that's cool.
Yeah, the Venom Shot is right back in the deck. That was huge for Nico, honestly. And now, Pokemon Communication, putting the Lanoon into the deck. Trading it for an Yveltal.
Oh. He's got a GX attack, man. 4 damage is a pretty interesting number.
Oh, no. Does he actually have it, though?
Does he actually have a way to go ahead?
He needs a darkness. He needs an escape rope.
A board.
Does he have a darkness and an escape rope? Does he have anything here? Has he already played a supporter?
It's an escape board.
He is not. Oh, sorry. Sorry, escape board. I'm getting excited here. Okay, so he needs a darkness. He needs an escape board.
Oh, man. He also does have his Jirachi available to him, too. Shuffling.
Nothing.
Oh, he didn't find a single card to help him there.
Nothing there. He actually had it. What can you find? You're going to need a darkness, and you're still going to need the escape board.
Found a Rosa.
About as bad a find as you can have there.
He is stuck in the active spot. From what it looks like, he would have to pass the turnover. I'm pretty sure that there is a sufficient attack available to close this game out. We'll have to see what Nico has in the discard pile.
You have to feel for Tim.
Actually, I don't know. Does he?
Is there anything in the discard pile
yet?
Does
he have what, Beast Raid or whatever it is for 0?
Just a pass. Tim stays asleep.
Oh, look at that. He has the Macargo.
Game goes to Nico Alabas.